There are many stories about animals that ask humans for help, but many people don't believe in it or consider it a coincidence. However, when homeless Dimitri encountered a wild reindeer for the first time, he was sure that it would attack him. But soon, his assumption turned out to be wrong. The reindeer actually wanted Dimitri to follow it because it needed his help with something terrible. 5 years ago, Dimitri lost his job and has been living on the streets ever since. But it seemed as if everything was about to change. Dimitri didn't want to live in the city anymore. He had problems with the police and residents who didn't tolerate homeless people. That's why he wanted to leave the city. More than a week had passed, and he had barely any food or drink left. He could no longer continue and sat down beside a road that led to the forest. He had given up all hope of a better life and was waiting to starve to death. But when he realized someone was standing in front of him, he slowly opened his eyes. But he didn't expect to see a reindeer standing in front of him. Although these wild animals are usually shy, the reindeer came closer to Dimitri. He immediately thought the reindeer would attack him, but there was no impact. Instead, Dimitri realized that the animal was not aggressive. Finally, the reindeer made a soft noise before gently touching Dimitri's head with its own. Dimitri was speechless. He had not had water for hours and was too exhausted to understand what the reindeer wanted from him. At first, Dimitri thought the best option was to pretend to be asleep. Maybe then the reindeer would leave him alone. But instead, the animal rushed at him again. Meanwhile, someone in a passing car observed the situation and stopped. A man got out of the car and slowly approached Dimitri, and the reindeer, not wanting to scare the animal, he asked if Dimitri needed help and took a gun out of his car. Dimitri was shocked at the sight of the weapon because he didn't want the man to hurt the reindeer. He knew he had to act quickly, or the situation would get out of control. Initially, Dimitri stood up slowly and tried to drive the reindeer away carefully. He was afraid the man would shoot at this peaceful animal, but then Dimitri noticed that the reindeer was still watching him with every step. The homeless man felt that the team was urging him to come along, and he realized that the armed man was still ready to shoot the animal. Therefore, he tried to drive the reindeer into the woods as quickly as possible. It worked, and once the man had driven the animal a few meters into the forest, he wanted to return to the road. However, the reindeer looked back and indicated to the man that he should follow it. The homeless man was exhausted, but something inside him told him to listen to the animal. At first, he was afraid that he would collapse before he could make it, but the reindeer wanted to tell him something. What could it be? He had to pass through a thicket of food and leaves. But eventually he saw what was lying on the ground in the mud. There were 2 small reindeer. One of the babies had a large wound on its leg and was groaning in pain. The other seemed to be in better condition. Dimitri had last worked as a nurse in a hospital, so he knew how to treat the wound, even though he had never treated an animal before. He carefully tried to clean the wound as best he could and then took off his sock to bandage it and stop the bleeding. Afterwards, he tried to contact a veterinarian, but as a homeless and poor man, he did not have a phone. He quickly ran back to the main road, trying to stop a car to help him. However, because of his unkempt appearance, no car stopped to help him. The drivers thought he was trying to beg for money, hitchhike, or even rob them. Nonetheless, Dimitri did not give up and persisted. After some time, a woman finally stopped her car and asked what was wrong. Dimitri told her the story and asked her to contact a local veterinarian to help the injured animal. The woman hesitated for a moment because the story seemed strange to her. An apparently neglected and disoriented man helping a wounded animal in the middle of nowhere. He recounted such an absurd story, but when she looked deep into the man's eyes, she reached for her phone. Something in his gaze told her that he was telling the truth. The driver contacted the local veterinarian, who immediately agreed to come to the described location in the forests. The veterinarian found the injured animal lying on the ground, carefully lifted it with Dimitri's help, and placed it on the large loading area of his pickup truck. When they arrived at the animal clinic, the reindeer had to be treated immediately to remove the foreign object. The veterinarian thanked the staff and told Dimitri that he could wait in the bathroom. All that was on Dimitri's mind was the man with the gun whom he had encountered. He must have been the one who shot this little reindeer. Consequently, he decided to file a report. With the help of the veterinarian, he called the local police and told the officers the entire story. They promised immediate action since hunting young animals was illegal. 2 police cars drove to the location in the forest and found some empty cartridge cases. After a while, they were able to match them to the weapon, and something unbelievable came to light. It was actually the man whom Dimitri had met at the roadside who had shot the animal. The police searched his house and arrested him immediately, not for hunting the reindeer, as that would have only resulted in a fine, but because he did not have a valid gun license, and was clearly poaching. Later, he was sentenced to a prison term for illegal possession of weapons and poaching. After a week, the little reindeer was released, but there was a big concern that its mother, who had come to find it, would not be able to locate it. Even if she did, the question remained as to whether she would reject her calf after such a long absence. Fortunately, everything turned out well, and after about 2 hours, the mother found her calf and trotted over to it. Dimitri later said in an interview that this experience gave him the courage to take his life in his own hands and start anew. If you enjoyed this video, then leave a like and subscribe for more amazing content. See you in the next one.